All right, my name's Ross Pittman, the the Devil's Advocate, and I'm sitting here with
My name's Simon Cole.
Simon Cole. Simon, I've come along to the Extinction Rebellion to have a chat with people, and you just asked me what was my passion. Like mine would be renewable energies or energy power, and I mentioned molten salt reactors.
Yeah.
Now, when I say molten salt reactors, and like I said, there is a place for solar and wind, but it does take a bit of fossil fuels to make them. There's a bloke called Michael Moore put out a documentary not long ago, and he was actually saying that some of the green industries have actually sold out to the fossil fuel industries.
Yeah, what was that movie called?
Planet of the Humans.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I believe and I'd still be a bit sceptical about him being 100% accurate on everything, because I can honestly say no one knows everything about everything.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So,
agree with that.
right now, anyone who says that they know everything about everything is either a fucking wanker or a straight out blatant liar.
Yeah.
So, my point of view would be would be atomic energy, but not uranium, because some of the
So a clean form
no thanks.
of nuclear.
Oh, clean, yeah. Because in 1960, and I've done some research on this, in 1960 the American Oak Ridge University had a uranium nuclear reactor and a thorium nuclear reactor.
Yeah, I knew exactly where this was going. Yeah.
Well, so what's your name, mate?
Serge.
Hey? Serge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Ross. Okay, I'm happy to have a round table conversation, which is what I want, because I might learn something off yous. I'm hoping that I can plant a seed to yous that yous will think a little bit differently about what yous are doing. Like, I agree in principle with what yous are doing, but I just think that yous could probably be doing it a little bit differently, perhaps. But that's why I would like the round table conversation, so everyone gets the input.
Yeah, there seem to be a lot of people approaching these issues from different directions.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I suppose that's natural in an open society.
Yeah.
See, I don't call myself left and I don't call myself right.
Neither do I.
I actually call myself a realist, not a leftist or a rightist. I call myself a realist, because if there's new information that comes along, that I will incorporate that into my mindset, right? And this
General agnostic, maybe.
agnostic means you don't believe in God.
Not. People use it when they talk about it actually can be used generally to suggest that basically like your belief structure isn't like set in stone. And
No, it's not set in stone.
Malleable as to evidence and stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like I can honestly say, like, I don't believe in religion, because all you got to do is read a history book and know religion sucks. I believe in God, but I don't believe in religion. But I'm not here to talk about religion or faith. I'm here to talk about science and the evolution of man as a species, because we're not going to go anywhere if we keep getting divided to left to right. The false division that the powers that be want us to be divided, so we can't have that round table conversation. So anyway, back to the molten salt reactors. In 1960, Oak Ridge had it.
It's Ross, is it?
Ross, yes.
What's your family name?
Pittman.
Pittman. Thank you.
Oh, I might have some vitamin C. Just don't want to touch it. Thank you very much.
Just addressing the question of renewable energy generally, rather than before getting into the details of clean nuclear and molten salt. Have you heard of Beyond Zero Emissions?
What's that?
So Beyond Zero Emissions is a very comprehensive plan put out by an institute from Melbourne University, and they've done extensive studies over the last, I've been going for 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
And they put out extensive studies on how Australia can transition to zero emissions. In 10 years at a cost of $8 per household per week. And essentially that means making full use of solar power, wind, tidal, And it's also doing things like producing concrete differently so that there are fewer emissions, designing buildings so that they don't need as much energy.
Well, from what I understand, solar panels are getting so advanced that they can paint. There's a paint that you can put down, and you paint the roof, and then the whole roof becomes a solar panel. You paint the wall, the east and the west wall, not so much the north and south, but you paint the roof, the east and the west wall. That's a whole solar panel.
So I happen to, have studied some of this stuff. So I studied nanoscience, and I mean, for one reason or another, I studied a lot about solar panels, whether from solar panel paint to like really thin stuff, or even other cool stuff that's probably hard to explain, but increasing the absorption that it can turn into energy, because silicon only turns like a section of the sun's energy into
the proficiency.
Do you agree that technology is not going to save us?
No, I mean, it's like, well, I mean, first of all, it's like, you need to stop the bleeding first, because, I mean, that's both easy and obvious, and the problem is that its impacts compound over time. The emissions we release today are not fully realised for another 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And that's the same for the emissions released 20 or 30 years ago, right? I mean, that's the first step, right?
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I wonder is, the historical emission carbon that industrial countries are responsible for. Much of that would have been reabsorbed into the environment already, because nature has that capacity. But to the extent to which it's gone beyond that, I wonder whether the IPCC and all the negotiations about what countries should be doing, what fair share of reducing carbon emissions and carbon sequestration is calculated into these negotiations, or are they all just saying, this is how much carbon there is in the atmosphere, we've all got to try and reduce our emissions, this is how much our emissions are, we've got to reduce that. Are they actually, you know what I mean? Because I think that's
looking at the proportionality from country to...
because
Before I'd be worried about Australia, before I'd be worried about Australia joining this great emissions reduction, I'd be wanting to see China and America do a lot more than what they are now.
Yeah, I don't think it's a payoff, a trade-off thing. I think we just do our bloody best. Because if we wait for others, it's just going to...
Well, don't go backwards, in other words. I'd say don't go backwards. I mean, don't go building more coal stations and so on. And look at the science, because I actually believe when you say science, are we going to be saved by science? I believe science is either our best friend and our worst enemy. But on top of that, capitalism is our best friend and our worst enemy as well. Because capitalism works and gives people incentive to do things, but unfortunately with the amount of corruptness that is in there now, it is absolutely making us go backwards. So I'll boil it down to simplicity, which is the way I work. To me, I'm only against two things, which is corruption and greed. So if you can boil it, take away, and you're never going to stop it. So you're saying, well, let's stop all corruption, let's stop all greed. No, let's subdue the corruption and subdue the greed, because greed, like Danny DeVito it was in a movie, he goes, greed is good. Well, no, greed's not good. Greed winds up creating, I think it creates a decadent society which winds up eating itself from the inside. And that's what we don't want. We want to build a society, not have it eat itself from the inside.
So do you think money in politics is a key inhibitor of change and improvement?
Directly. It's an inhibitor, as in it's stopping us from going forward because of the amount of corruption that's in there. and it is also a key that we need them to take away that corruption. Then we'd have good people making it go forward in the correct way, with an open table conversation about which science we need to listen to.
That's sort of exactly what the
All right.
proposal is about citizens' assemblies.
Okay, we'll listen to this guy.